And there are a few that, you know, nothing's going on there, but you kind of keep them at peace, and so you call them back up and say, how you doing? You know, make sure they're comfortable, so. Okay. Rob is the, I guess I should say, you know, I am the paralegal legal researcher. He's the computer geek, but I also have 3 degrees in computers, so we all kind of computer geek together, but he's more equipment techie than I am, so he gets to be the geek.
Okay, we use EMF meters. The theory goes that spirits are the electrical energy remaining after the physical body dies. This can be detected by electromagnetic field detectors, like these 2 things she's got here. I'll have pictures later that I'll show. Usually fluctuations between 2 and 7 milligauss on those meters is about where spirit energy is. Electrical energy can be anywhere between, you know, point something all the way up to hundreds of milligauss. And if that EMF fluctuation coincides with something else that's going on, like a sound or a temperature change or something like that, then that gives credence to the fact that maybe that is a spirit. And if we get like an EVP while that's going on, we hear a voice on the recorders, you know, that could be a detection of a spirit. We don't have a K2 with us, so you don't have to walk around. Those are kind of like what you see on Ghost Hunters and all the other shows. We use those for yes or no communication, where you ask a question, you can say you can move up towards that, and you can make those lights go off. And we had some success with that at the Vandalia house, Vandalia apartment. Spirits require a lot of energy in order to manifest themselves. They tend to draw that energy from the environment, wherever they can get it. Sometimes they draw upon heat energy, which makes the room, they have the cold spots. They're pulling the actual heat energy from the air to power whatever it is that they want to do. We have a handheld thermometer with a probe that we can detect with the laser changes in temperature. Obviously, your ultimate goal is to catch something on film as it's happening, preferably video. We've got the computer-based closed-circuit security camera thing that allows us to have multiple cameras, which we only have 2 right now. But we have the 2 cameras set up in a certain spot, and you know, it'll show like if something moves in that location. We'll have that on the video. Digital audio, which are these guys here. This is what I recommend if you're going to do this ghost hunting thing. Go out and get you one of these. These 2 have a USB interface, so you can hook it up to the computer and extract the audio down, and you can rip your EVPs out and just listen specifically to that section.
See, he's a geek. He's talking geek.
Talking geek. This guy specifically is digital. It's used to detect fluctuations in the magnetic fields. It can also detect your wiring. If people are really sensitive to EMF, in certain spots, you can go up to that spot, and if this thing is going off, they're being sensitive to whatever's there, like the electric wiring or the grounded pipe. EMF can cause all kinds of different physiological effects, from fatigue to skin irritations. You feel like you're being watched, and some instances it even cause hallucinations. The K2, it's just another type of an EMF meter. I kind of went over that a little bit before. We use it for the yes-no communications. Once the spirits realize that they can manipulate the lights, they can usually figure it out. They're very susceptible to tampering, which is sometimes, you know, on these shows when they're faking stuff, your key fob thing will set them off. Your cell phone, your walkie-talkie, if you key it up, can set it off. So, you know, if we've got footage of that thing going off, I like to see everybody's hands and nobody, nobody's close to it or something.
You're not messing with his brain.
Yeah, they're not messing with them. This guy is a very expensive piece of equipment. It's, well, very expensive. It's $150 or something. It's a very sensitive EMF meter. We can use this also in conjunction with our K2 meters. It's got a radio setting that will detect if this thing's going off and your K2 meter's going off. There's some sort of radio interference going on, and you can pretty much throw out whatever your K2's doing. Our camcorder, which is being utilized in the back of the room right now to record this. It's got infrared. It allows us to see in the dark, and it's, what I do is I kind of walk around with it and use it like I'm filming an episode of Ghost Hunters. I can film what they're doing, and it's kind of like another investigator. We get audio and video from right there. Sometimes, which we really haven't done this, I don't think, you can leave it sit in a location and plugged up to the computer, and it can be recording the whole time. It's also got, you can use infrared modules on it, or IR lights, to extend its ability to see in the dark further. Our computer-based DVR system. Of course, I'm a computer nerd, so I built the computer. Like I said before, it's the infrared lights, and it's like another investigator sitting there the whole time, being able to see in the dark and being able to detect, movement or anything going on.
It just doesn't talk.
It doesn't talk yet. Not that fancy. I went over the digital recorders. Moving on to the Patterson. This is probably what you all came for. To hear about all the stuff that goes on in Dayton. Patterson family, one of the founding families of Dayton, Ohio. Robert Patterson and his wife Elizabeth are the original owners of a lot of land in this area. Their house over on Brown Street is called Rubicon. It was built in 3 different stages from early 1800s to about the mid 1800s. The Pattersons lived there in the house from 1804 to 1904. Originally, Robert Patterson, Revolutionary War hero, who was also in the War of 1812. He lived there. They had, with his wife, they had 12 children, and I think 9 of them survived into adulthood. So right there you've got 3 possible explanations for spirit activity going on there. Robert Patterson originally founded Louisville, Kentucky. He was part of getting that city up and running. He purchased over 2,400 acres from Robert Lindsay, which was his wife's brother, in 1804, which was part of this area around here. In the war, he served as an Indian scout and a soldier. He received no less than 10 wounds doing all of his war duties. He hated the Indians. He fought the Indians, and he would fight them and kill them wherever he saw them. He was coming back up from Cincinnati. This was in the late 1700s. This was before they were here. And he got in a fight with the Indians. He was with some of his buddies or whatever. I think they were hunting or coming up from Cincinnati to be here. But the Indians raided their encampment, and during the scuffle, he got wounded. He got a tomahawk in his back, and that wound affected him for the rest of his life. And when we were at the Patterson the first time, was it Cindy or Mary? One of the psychics that was there was getting pain in her back, and obviously that was her feeling, being contacted or whatever from possibly from Robert Patterson. She was sensing his pain. Robert Patterson died in 1829. Soon, it was probably about 10 years after that, the house was willed over to Jefferson and Julia, which Jefferson was their youngest son. Julia Johnston was daughter of Colonel Johnston from Piqua. I forget his name. He lived there for a while. He died in the house. Jefferson and Julia had 14 children, of which 10 survived to adulthood. They had 2 of their 2-year-old children die at different times. I think one was 1853 and one was 1855 or 56. And the reason why the little ones died, that was right around the time of the cholera epidemics. It was a little bit afterwards. The job of the little ones was to clean out the chamber pots in the mornings. So they would go out and rinse out whatever was in there, and the cholera, of course, the infection, they would get the infection through that, and then subsequently they would get sick and die. They also had a 17-year-old daughter, Katie, who, now this is weird. Jefferson was a statesman in Columbus. He died in 1863. 2 days later, Katie died. Now, I don't know if that was a suicide or if she was sick. There's really no mention of why and how she died. Have you?
I haven't come across that one yet.
We don't know. So just to me, the fact that her dad died and then she dies 2 days later is kind of weird. But those are the 4 from that era that could be haunting the Patterson. Soon after Jefferson passed, Julia moved to a house on 3rd Street. She turned the homestead over to her 2 sons, Frank and John, who we all know built NCR, which is now gone. They founded NCR in 1884, and in 1953 the homestead was donated to the Dayton Historical Society. Oh, it's your turn again.
What year was it donated?
53? Thank you. Your turn. I'll sit down here.
Our first investigation at the Patterson Homestead, which I'm understanding now because of some recent investigative activity that has had some negative consequences. They're halting investigations. They're now so I feel privileged that we've had the ability to do 2 there.
I've also had to change the curator.
Oh, Lisa's not there anymore either? Okay, I needed 2 curator changes, but definitely a home full of history, a home full of activity. Our first one was August 29th, 2008. Our second was November 14th, 2008. The first one was our group, and at the time, 2 of our psychics that we consult with from time to time. Had a lot of interesting activities. And our second time was with a sister group out of Monroe called Paravisions. We don't do too much with them.
No.
Middletown, yeah. So basically what was, we were told the claims of activity were people watching you all the time. You feel like there's somebody there, you don't they see that. And all the way up to seeing full images of people, full body apparitions is what we call them. Sherry and Mary attempted to talk to the spirits, and a lot of times they were telling me, we had gone up to the 3rd floor and there was a 16-year-old boy up there, and he and I were having a little bit of a flirtation going on. It was fun. But he apparently had a crush on a little girl and wanted to take her flowers, and ended up chickening out and giving flowers to his mom. So at least that's what they told Sherry and Mary. So. But the 2nd floor master bedroom is where a lot of things were said to happen. And in that room, that was Julia's room. And there was a period of time where she had lost, I forget, I thought it was her husband that they had sent in and had told me. And she would sit in the window right there.
It was when Jefferson died.
When Jefferson died. And watch for him to come home. And it was sitting there in her chair. And I'm sitting here, and all of a sudden I feel the dog. And I'm stroking the dog. And that's where I was laughing and talking to everybody going on, and I started crying. And that's just, it's a very odd sensation, but it was very fulfilling, because for me, it was the true connection, because I lost my husband 11 years ago. So I could actually feel what she was feeling, because I've been there sort of, but haven't sat in the window watching. So I knew what was going on, and I knew it was her, and I knew what I was experiencing. So it was really, really great.